Hey, how you doing? Hey, this is Admin from PlexGuide. So what we're going to do in this video here is we're going to do a little bit of Ansible scripting. You know, some I kind of talked about in I think in some old videos, but something to just kind of help you wrap your mind around how would you go about even editing the file and stuff like that. So first thing I do is I have VMware set up. So obviously I'm already logged into this. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's good to replicate the environment. So I'm gonna go ahead and minimize this. So the first thing you're going to need is either you're going to need Atom or Sublime Text. And the reason for those is because those are your editing programs. So we're going to go ahead and bring up Atom. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up GitHub Desktop. Right now I'm having problems syncing because I'm using a beta version of a Mac. And so there's a few programs that have to be caught up for compatibility for official release. So I like the whole dark theme and background. So okay, I know that's a little bit off topic. Okay, so for the first thing you need to do is you need to open up your version of PlexGuide. So if you're looking on how to clone, let's see, plexguide.com, and let's go ahead and log in. And if you're looking to learn how to clone, there is a tutorial on how to do all this, including the newbie coders. So the reason I'm telling you that is because if you're just like, well, I really don't know what to do right now, that's the first thing you need to do. You need to clone the project. Okay, so we have Atom open. We're going to go ahead and hit open. And we're going to go to, looks like I'm already here. Open here. And we're going to go ahead and look at a script that already has Ansible in it. So we're going to do something pretty simple. So for testing purposes, I'm going to go ahead and create a new branch. I'm going to call this PG test 1234. Yeah, no, silly branch name, right? I got to use GitHub Desktop right now to sync this. And we're going to use PG fork. There is actually a video on how to use PG fork. Okay, so let's pick something really simple. So let's say we want to do an Ansible script, right? Let's do something like net data, which is actually pretty simple. Or it can be complex. But it's simple in a way where I can explain this one enough. So the thing is when it comes to Ansible, first, obviously you have to have it installed. Second, if you're going to have a system with Ansible on it, install PlexGuide. The reason for it is because you may just like, hey, I'm going to just go in here and just install Ansible and hope it works. Well, you will, but it will cause some errors and some other things. So if you install PlexGuide, it will ensure that all the configuration settings are correct so that you have no issues. Okay, so when you run Ansible, it's basically going to have a format structure, right? So if there's two ways you can go about executing Ansible. You have to basically set up a thing called roles, and you have to have a thing where you have like a YML that will basically have all your major commands, like this right here. So you notice there's a basics YML. When you call up certain things, and the reason I'm going to show you just like 101 stuff. If I type Ansible playbook, that's how it always starts, op PlexGuide, and then it's going to be basics YML. And you can see in this one I only have two things in it. So I have menu, transport, and God knows how this will come up because I'm not executing it correct. You know, I'm executing something out of order. Menu, transport, and it may not work. Okay, but we're going to pass on that. Let's do nano op PlexGuide PGYML. And again, I apologize if I'm just demoing this on the go. This is how I do all my videos. So I'm trying to pull up something that's really obvious. Okay, so we got Bazaar in there. We have net data. Okay, so let's do this. Ansible playbook op PlexGuide PG YML. Just make sure it exists. There we go. Tags net data. So basically, when you create this particularly formatted file, and you saw how I executed everything. You see like how netdata executed. That's how you get an Ansible script to deploy. So another way you can do it is actually by going to the script itself. So if I type ops, let's see, roles, and the thing is, when you execute something by itself, it has to have a very specific format. And let's go to something that I know that has that. So if I just go, let's just do this real quick. PlexGuide roles, netdata, tasks. I actually haven't tested out this way, but I believe it won't work when you just do it like this. You see, you're going to get an error. So you cannot execute the file directly, right? I'm just showing you this is because the first thing you do when you play with Ansible is like, why is this not working? Why is it not executing? So, and this is like the first things that I had to learn. So like I would type that and I'm like, crap, I don't understand how all this works. So what I realized is that you have to have things set up in roles, and then you have to have the name of the role, and then you have to set up tasks, and then you had to put the main YML file in there. Ignore these other two, but I had to have the main YML in there. So it was just a long learning process. Okay, so if I do, like I said, we saw earlier, netdata, and you got netdata here, basically it will go ahead and execute all that. So let's look at the format of the file. Nano PlexGuide PG YML. The good thing for you is that if you want to go ahead and test all this and you're making your own Ansible script, if you actually place a folder within PlexGuide roles and you do this, it will all work. It's already set up for you. So you know, if you found guacamole, you can do tags guacamole, you know, whatever you want to do. But you just have to make sure that you save your stuff. You know, you just create a folder in the roles. Make sure you put it in tasks, then main YML. If you put the main YML at the root, like if you put let's see, let's look at netdata again. So if I take main YML and I put it in the root right here, it will not work and it will drive you crazy. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the file format. Ansible is very, very picky if you start to play with it. So you'll notice that there's a tag, then a dash, and then you'll notice that it says roles, right? You got to make sure that all these spaces line up. And you see how everything is formatted. Role, alias, tags, alias. Role, all tube, all tube. So basically when I, like, you know how I just said all tube right here? So if I go here and we do this right here, all tube, it will go ahead and execute the file, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I think it wasn't until like 6 months later, looking at the Q's work, I realized I could execute files without doing that format. There's times where that format helps, and there's times where it's great to execute the direct file. Okay, so netdata deployed. But remember my old example right here, you know, if we take all tube, roles, let's see, tasks, and then main YML. I apologize earlier. I think maybe in the video I said roles. Basically, it has to be within tasks. Okay, so main YML, and you see how it doesn't work. So I know it's just going to drive you batty. You're like, why can I just not execute this file directly? Well, what happens is when you're executing that whole thing, it's acting as part of a system. So basically, you have to declare a file as almost being kind of like independent in order for it to execute by itself. So actually, a lot of your menus right here actually execute like that. So if I go to menu start, you notice I have main YML sitting right there. Now, I don't have to name it main YML, but you'll notice here that in this format, you'll see host, localhost, gatherfag, tasks. And then under the task, you'll notice that a lot of these things look like what you see in a standard Ansible file. So let's actually pop up Ansible real quick. Let's see, Ansible format. YML syntax. Hey, if you're, like I said, if you're a pro at this, I'm glad for you. If not, if you're like me when I started, I'm just like, holy crap, this is a little overwhelming for me. Let's see, Ansible roles. So the good thing about Ansible's documentation is if you're really trying to figure out something like Ansible conditionals, Ansible arithmetic, it will actually pop up and give you decent examples to look at. So, for example, it says when using roles, you see how it says hosts, roles, comment. So you notice that our files are set up like that. You noticed that earlier? So there was the roles. But basically, by doing that, we don't have to type hosts, roles every single time. You notice here, you kind of see it like this, but it's not. This is the independent thing that I was talking about. So just to show you a regular file, HTPC manager. So again, I'm showing you all this first, and then we're going to go ahead and just create like a small file. So you notice here that it basically it's basically executing tasks already. So I know it says include tasks, include roles, just ignore that. But long story short is that it's just able to execute stuff right away. But that's part of this whole role. See, HTTPC manager, task, main YML. Whereas in the menu, I didn't have it like that. I didn't have to name it main YML, but I just did that to keep a sanity check. So just to show you that it works in concept, we're going to go ahead and execute it. So we're going to do roles, and then we're going to do menu start. You notice we're doing direct execution, and it should work. Should work. See, you notice it's just executing, and there we go. And actually, that's how your stuff all starts up. So it's all part of this PGSH starting up, and then it basically calls that line up, and this is how you get your menu. If you notice that you're looking at the things here, you notice these things line up. See? Register ports. So it's registering in the variable file called info. So it's basically doing this. Cat var server ports. It's registering in. Why? Because info will be used later on. And you notice that, see, there's your ports right there. Like I said, this is a part of a long, complex statement. So, you know, it's like, hey, okay, take info stout, just kind of ignore all this. But the point is that there's all these things are executing line by line for you. So you'll notice that there's just a bunch of different conditionals, things being called up. So if we actually execute that cat, let's get out of this real quick. Cat var PlexGuide server ports. See how there's nothing there? So because it's blank, you see how it says info, which is this, and oh, you're gonna have fun learning about this. Styled input, user input. There's times you got to put certain extensions on certain things. Okay, so because it's blank, it's gonna say open. If it called up 127.0.0.1, like if I literally typed that and it came up with that, it will say closed on the menu. So the way you'll see that is when we execute this. You'll see it on the front. It should say open. See right there? There's open. So let's go ahead and just put that in there. Now, normally you wouldn't do this. Basically, you'll go through the menus and you'll close the ports and it'll rewrite all your containers. But again, I'm just showing you this for proof of concept, so you just kind of understand a little bit. And again, if you're miles ahead of me on this, I'm glad. You know, yeah, I can take all the tips I can get. Okay, so now if I execute PlexGuide, it should say closed. Oh, see, I created an error somewhere. And let me see, it's going to complain about the ports. Yep, ports is undefined. So there's a reason why I kind of go through this whole process. Okay, it looks like there's a colon. So basically, in this situation, it's impossible for this to happen. Basically, when you use the menus, either it's blank or it's gonna echo this exactly. So it looks like I was missing a colon because it's looking for this conditional. Okay, let's try this again. So you can see this is some of the fun that I get to have when I write some of the script up. See? Now it says close. But this is misleading because all we did was just kind of stuff a status into something to display this to you. So basically, when you're seeing all of this above, you're basically looking at a script execute line by line. So that's why you're seeing the end state. The reason I like Ansible is because you can see here that it's reporting errors to you. So traditionally, when I first started PlexGuide, when I wrote bash scripts, because the cool thing is that I actually had a lot of things replicating originally, but to kind of convert an Ansible format was a headache. But it tells you what the problem is. You see, it says the error was ports, is undefined, and is somewhere in this file. See, menu start, main YML, line 113. So it helps you track down the error. So it had heartburn when it got here because since that messed up up here, because you remember, it's basically saying make ports a certain status based on either this or this. And because it didn't happen, it got caught into a loop and it displayed a mistake. So this is something that you'll start to appreciate about Ansible. At first you'll hate it, but you will love it over time. Because again, if I wrote this up all in a bash script and I was having problems, I'd have to create flags and all kinds of little mini programs to track down these errors. But you saw that it successfully executed, so there's no failed here. So if I use my program, you see, normally this is where I would close the port or open the port. So let's go ahead and open it. And it's going to go ahead and rebuild some containers. Okay, so now you're kind of understanding just a little bit. I know this is not as clear as you want it to be. But the first thing is you have to understand that you need to execute the file a very particular way. So either you can execute it directly, but if you execute it directly, you're going to have this basically starting here. And then you can have all this, but you got to make sure that everything lines up. I can take this and move it this way, and if I execute this script, Ansible will complain. So because it's a YML format, YML. So why? I don't fully understand, but I noticed that even with other programs, you have to write certain things up in a certain format. Maybe because how the program reads things, because you know it is in a hierarchical manner. So if you see it like this, you can go ahead and execute the file directly. If not, then you're going to have to create that YML, and you're going to have to create that complicated like tag setup, and then you're going to have to do the name of the file, tags, whatever it is. The reason you can't find PGYML, because you notice here, is because guess what? I have a script that automatically generates it for you. Yeah, I know. An advanced feature you don't even see. There's a lot of hidden things that the script does. Because basically, when I type PlexGuide, that script generates. There's a generator, like gen YML. It's like hiding here somewhere. So basically what it's doing is it will actually cd op PlexGuide roles. It's basically doing an LSLA, and then what it's doing is it's going to strip all this crap out, and it's going to take this, and then it's going to go, it's removing this, and it's going to take this file, and make the file for you. So when you look at it, and I'm explaining this to you because you might be curious where this PGYML is in the code. In order to see it, you need to execute the program one time, and it will come up. And you have to look at it this way. And there you go. See? So you notice that it lines up with what we got here. AirSonic, alias. You'll notice some funny ones because, like right here, license MD. This is not going to do anything. So actually one of my buddies caught it. I think it was Migs who caught it. I can't remember who did. But license MD is located there. So you're going to have some craziness in here. As long as this is formatted correctly, you're good to go. So again, feel free to look at the basics YML or the PGYML. The cool thing is if you're going to go ahead and play around, tinker with this code, because it generates it for you automatically, all you have to do is just create a folder. All you have to do is just to make sure to start off as going PlexGuide, PGYML, and then tags, whatever the name of your folder is over here. Cool, right? So I kept it simple for you, and I hope that does help. Okay, so now you're like, okay, I really want to start getting into this, Ansible a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and look back at net data, like what you originally talked about. So originally, this script right here actually used to be really long and complicated. I'm trying to see if there's an old one I have, but I think I eliminated most of those. No. Core. And the reason I formatted a certain way is because, yeah, I think I've deleted a lot of these olds. Let me see. Control-Shift-F. Powerful finding project. Old YML. Wow, okay. Looks like I got rid of all of them. Did a good job. Took forever. Okay. I just kind of wanted to show you an old syntax, but this will do. Okay, so we're going to go back to net data. Okay, so originally this was the main part of the program, just this. There wasn't a core YML, there was no questions YML. I literally designed this because what happened was it just drove me nuts to see how complicated everything got. So what happened was I created a thing called core YML because I can, you can see that I organized everything really kind of pretty. Yeah, kind of joking here. Okay, so in order for me to have things pull up over there, one thing I learned about these tasks is that Ansible is able to see everything. You know, I was thinking, okay, if how's this pulling this information there? It just knows. So you'll notice here it says launch core task core YML. So it's going to do a whole bunch of things. Then it's going to deploy. But you see this thing where it says default environment, default labels, all this other stuff. You'll notice that it's basically this: default volumes and then default labels. So okay, so like let's say we didn't want that, right? Let's say you just wanted to edit the file directly. You don't have to have that shortcut I had. Let's see. Main YML. So volumes. Normally it would look something like this. And you got to make sure it lines up. See? So literally I could have wrote the script out to be like this. So let's just go ahead and keep purging. So here I could have net data is always, so it's 1999. And you notice that in the core, you see I have those there. So you can see I set up my own variables. The reason you saw 3 parts is because if you add this right here, like something like this, it's been a hot minute, but it will make it private. So, you know, your port is basically closed. So we're just going to go ahead and leave this because you remember we're running a fork right now, right? So the goal is to delete this. Yeah, let's delete that because I'm in a fork right now, so I'm not going to damage anything. Okay, so we're going to delete that. Let's get rid of this. Okay. So the thing is, we want a version of net data. So you could see again, I did a lot of substitution here. So image, you'll go here, and then you can call this whatever you want. So I call it net data. Deploy net data container. Alias, call it net data for the network. And like I said, when I first discovered Ansible, it was just like, oh my god, this is so awesome. Labels, net data. And let's take this out. So you can see here, oh, looks like it got me here, environment. What did I have for the environment? Yes. Permissions. That would have probably got me. Okay. So one thing I learned about is certain things is that if you have more than one thing, usually it's good to just do this as practice. Let's see here. And you can see that everything just kind of lines up the same way. So in theory, this should all work. So let's go ahead and test this out. I know this is not the full Ansible class. This is just to show you how a container looks. So let's delete this. And this is why I love PG Fork. It's my own development tool. Is because it allows me to basically experiment how I want. So we're gonna go ahead and commit it. Got to use GitHub Desktop right now. See, I pushed it, right? So then we're gonna go ahead and use PG Fork. Because the reason is right now this is not pushed to any main edition of PlexGuide. So PG Fork. And this is what I love about PG Fork. It's my little own dev tool. So I'm going to update the project link. So if you were to fork the program, like meaning made your own copy, you would put your link here. And I'm going to update this sometime down the road. So the branch here is this, PG test 1234. So basically it's downloading a custom version of PlexGuide for me. That doesn't affect anybody else. This is how I can get a lot of testing done. Okay. So let's see if this works. So we're going to do Ansible playbook, and then we're going to do opt PlexGuide PGYML, because this is set up to run as part of the whole system. So you got to remember you got to do that, and then we're going to do tags, and then we're going to do net data. If something's jacked up here, it will yell at us. See right there? So right now it's yelling at us. Deploy. argument labels is of type string and you were unable to convert to dictionary. Okay. It's not telling me where it was specifically at. Failed false message argument is type string. So I'm assuming that a number value is of type string and we were unable to convert it to dictionary. Request could not phrase JSON key value. So I did copy some stuff over right now. So, and again, this is what I was talking about with Ansible. Ansible will yell at you and tell you what is literally wrong. Deploy net container, got it. And started. Here, let's just take this out. Make sure this is all lined up. Okay. And then if this doesn't work, then I will pull up an old example and we'll go from there. So the whole point of this too is to show you that nobody ever knows everything off the top of their head unless you're just a super genius. And I've been playing with this for quite a while. PG fork. So I don't have to enter the link again. I just say download current project. And then I can try it again. And it's probably going to give me the same error. So the good thing is that let's say you do have this problem. So it's saying is argument environment is of a type list. Oh, you know what? Environment keywords. It says of a type list, but I'm so used to those tags. It's been a while. Let's see if that's the problem. But the good thing is if you're having that particular problem, you can always Google it and you'll be surprised like how many answers come up. Sometimes they're better or worse. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do PG fork. And we're gonna download it. Okay, let's try this again. So it's either gonna work or it's gonna yell at me about spacing or something not lining up. Hey, who knows, even the quotations could be the problem. Oh, look at that, we got some success going on. And it deployed the container. So you notice that even with all these commands here, you notice we only have one task, deploy container. See that? So you could start making complex things. So like, let's say you wanted to create this container and you wanted to output something. Let's see what's something we can do. So this is an awesome tool that I've learned to use, the shell. And the reason for it is because sometimes there's just certain things that are too complex to do. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And you know me, if I execute this, Ansible is going to yell at me. So you have to make sure everything lines up. So you can tell I'm lining it up. That's shift left curly bracket. Okay, so let's say we would echo corn into, let's see, TMP food txt, right? So you should see two tasks basically executing, version. And to be honest with you, you can execute it just like this without the name. But it's good to have a name there because if something goes wrong, you kind of know where to track it down. So we're going to say listing food, save, stage all, sync with GitHub desktop. Normally I would just go ahead and push it there, but again, like I told you about the beta changes. Okay, PG fork. And again, this is a great tool because if you're making changes, you can, like I said, run your own version of PlexGuide. Okay, so if I do this, we should see that listing food come up. See, listing food. So it says there was a change. That's cool, right? So to make sure it works, cat tmp food txt, and we should get corn. There you go. So again, that's how Ansible really is. It's just a series of commands that you want to execute over the course of time. And you can see that net data is running. So let's say, just because I already have net data running, Decker stop net data, Docker remove net data, and then if I type PSPA or Docker PS, Okay, so you can see that these are the containers I have running. So you see that net data is gone. So just to make sure that what we have is working. So right now it's, you know, basically pulled it. It's set up those ports. Ooh, I only did one published port. How's that going to work? I'm a little curious, to be honest with you. Okay, so there's net data. But again, you're supposed to have the two published ports. You know, basically I should have it like this. So I'm a little curious. So what is the IP here? This is an internal IP, okay? 172, 16, 217, and 136. I don't know if this will work. Yeah, see, because it needs both those ports. Okay, so let's save this. Let's fix it. And you'll be surprised. It's the little things that can get you. You can write up the nicest script ever, forget something like that, and yeah. Because you notice there it didn't complain about an error. Okay. So we're gonna do PG fork again, because that's where all these changes are. Download. And come on. Okay. PlexGuide. So even though I'm running PlexGuide right now, instead of executing a manual command, it's running my custom version. So it should be looking, yep, it'll be looking for that net data. So we should see listing food. See? Listing food, deploy net data container. There you go. So let's see if 1999 comes up. There you go, see? So that's really all it took to get a container up and going. So where's a good place to get containers at? Well, Linux server is usually your best bet. So there was an author, Hosho, yeah, strange guy. Does a good job building his containers. So Linux server basically does a bunch of separate containers, but Hosho basically managed the ability to merge them, right? The reason they were removed was because there's like subdirectories he does, and there's a lot of workarounds to get his containers working. They save space, but they tend to lead to some errors that people have reported. Linux server is pretty good, and their staff is pretty responsive. If you've talked to Hosho, offbeat guy, you know, but to each his own. But the whole point is he does free, good work, and his work is widely used. So, yeah. Anyways, let's look at net data from them. Okay. Or, let's see, that's not from Linux server. You can see that there. Oh, you know what? A Linux server, yeah, I don't use net data from them because I don't think they have one. Okay, so anyways, when you look up a container, there's usually very specific instructions, right? So you're going to be looking at this all confused. You're like, I'm kind of at a loss here. So two things that I've learned to do. You need this, right? And you need the ports. Then you need to pay attention to their file format. So their file format's a little important to pay attention to. You'll notice that's a little written different from mine because of the Ansible format. But you see how it says process system, host process, whatever, right? You notice how it matches here? See? So that's the key things. Volumes, you need to make sure that the environmental variables are good. So there's weird Docker containers. I can't remember who it was, but there's like one that had like permissions of like 911 as the UID and the GID, and it was causing all kinds of problems. I think it wasn't Heimdall, but it was a program. So you need to pay attention to what they recommend too for their security permissions, if they do post it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. See. So I can type GID. Yeah, see here they don't. So I know Linux server is pretty good about listing in their files, but it's generally safe to do 1,000. And you can see here they kind of give you some way advanced information, you know, if you want to deploy this Docker container. But you notice that we did this. If you do this and you just do this by itself, it's always going to download the latest. For some reason you want to stick to a very specific version, then that's what you put here. Trip net data 1.4. You'll literally have the 1.4 right there. CPU shares is not something you commonly see. This is basically something that allows like Plex right now runs 1024. So if Plex goes on a CPU binge, Plex will end up getting most of the processor data because it has a higher CPU shares. Pull means yes, pull it. So I don't understand what happens if you put no. never really bothered with that. You want the container to restart when it comes up, and you see here it's joining the network and it says, hey, I want it to start. There might be reasons why you don't want a container to start. Okay, so basically you just have to look at their file and you just gotta pull information from it. So let's look back at Linux server because that's originally what I was on. So let's say radar. You can see that, for example, like in theirs, this is what they recommend. You need to have a config path, right? This is internal to the container. The downloads path, a movie path, but this is the path in your computer. So if I put mount movies, colon movies, what happens is movies that this container sees at tac/movies is really on my computer at tac mount movies. Complicated process, but long story short, you got to make sure that these match up. You see here they say there's the ports, this is what you need to do, and then you see here's the permissions they talk about. So, and generally, like I said, I do 1,000 because it's not an issue. So that's the key thing to these containers. Okay, so now you want to learn a little bit more about commands, right? Other commands. So let's see here. So there's some interesting things that you can do. So, for example, okay, so like the menus. This is my own creation here. A little bit complicated, but I managed to figure it out. So here you can see that this is one task. You notice how there's one tag? So you notice it says PG menu, welcome to edition. You see there's variable. See, and that's all coming from this stuff up there. And then you see I do /n, \n, and you notice that it breaks a line. So that's how you get the line break. So if we took out one of the line breaks, let's say we took this out, and basically when we execute PlexGuide, everything will mess up. Well, it won't mess up, but the menu will be messed up. But again, this is my forked version, so we can do whatever we want here. Okay, so let's say we want to trying to think here. Let's register something. Okay, let's go back to net data here. So I got first thing I'll do is I gotta make sure this lines up. All right, so I'm gonna say I want you to cat tmp food text, right? So basically corn is gonna be stored in that file. Basically we're saying call it up and register it here. You see right there? And then we're gonna register it as food. Right? Now, let's say I want to get a debug message or something simple on the menu interface, right? I need to, trying to think here. PlexGuide.com, and you'll be surprised how many times I do a search on my own GitHub, because you'll be surprised like how many things you forget. Okay, so I'm looking for. Bringing that up, debug, yeah, debug. See right there? So debug is actually very powerful. It gives you statuses along the way, kind of like flags. I'm gonna say the food is this. If you're gonna do any type of variable call up with Ansible, make sure you always put everything in quotations, because if you don't, it will it'll be the source of pain for the rest of your day. So right now we're going to register food, right? It's not going to work like that, and I'm going to show you why. This is something I wish I would have kind of understood way in the beginning. Remember that stout thing I was talking about and the user input kind of a little bit from the beginning? This is where this is going to come into effect. Okay, so let me make sure this is pushed. Exit. And we're going to go ahead and fork it again. PG fork. Download. Okay. PlexGuide. Or no. We're not going to do that. We're going to do net data. There we go. Don't need to go through the whole motions of things. You see? So right now we didn't really do much. All we did was just say, hey, call up food, right? But food didn't do anything. It's now showing us what it's doing. See here? So basically, when you call up food, there's a lot of variables that are stuffed in it. See? So, there's some like U delta time I don't get. It'll tell you stuff is true, if it existed, if it changed. So what happens is we want st doubt, right? So what I've learned is that if you don't, like, let's say you want to find out the conditions of a file based on what you did, do this, and basically it will show you all of this. So what you'll do is you'll take stout, because you see right now it's corn, right? That's what it's going to put if we put stout there. If we put cmd there, it's going to, I know it's going to sound weird, but it's going to put cat tmp food text anytime that's called up. So we're going to basically take that, or actually I know to spell it out, so we're going to do st doubt. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Stage all. Fun processor. You can see why I kind of came up with my own dev tool. Now normally, again, this will be faster, but Okay. PG fork. Download. And again, this process is what allows me to do a lot of testing. Okay? So now we should see corn. See? Came up simply. Well, you're like, well, how do we use corn in this process? Well, let's say you want to call the Docker image corn, right? So you could do this, right? But don't forget the stout, right? Make sure you have the quotations. If you do not have the quotations, it will error the whole thing, and it will drive you up the wall. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and do a GitHub desktop. Okay, so let's bring up, let's say 2. Let's go ahead and bring up Docker. Just type some kind of garbage file. Because we should see net data there, right? But because we're going to change it to where it's going to execute food, there's net data, see? Click it. And there you go. Net data is some of the information that you see here. Okay. So we changed that to food stout. We did that. So let's do PG fork. We're going to download it. Come on. And then we're going to do PlexGuide. Sweet. Sorry, this is like so routine. Yeah, I went the slightly longer way. Okay, the food is corn. Good. Now we have a problem here. Why? Remember how I told you Ansible is great at doing things? It's saying that these ports are already allocated. Remember, we just added the ports fix not long ago. So in order for me to fix this, there's 2 things we have to do. Either we remove from Portainer manually, and you're going to have to redo that every single time, or you're going to need to remove the container prior to it executing. Because if you remove the container, it won't fail. Okay. So for simplicity, see how I just turned blue? But you see corn came up. So you see net data is no longer there. Or actually it is. Yeah, I was about to do the wrong thing here. So what happens is these ports are already taken. This is trying to execute the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and remove it. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and type net data again. And this time it should come up. So there's the refresh button. There you go. See? Corn running, and poof, there's your ports. That's another indicator too that your stuff's not running. Either it's blue or you don't see your published port. There's a rare few programs that don't have ports. So for example, like Watchtower is an updating program, so it won't have published ports. But I think you kind of get the idea. So you see it named it corn, and there's the network it's on. So there's the logs. See? So it's going to give you information here. So if you ever have problems with your stuff, you can always look at the logs. Okay, so back to here. So let's do one last thing. You know that this is going to be a problem, right? So we want to remove this container every single time it comes up, right? So I have it hidden here, pgme start or core. It's one of these things. Again, this used to be one long file, but you can see that I consolidated a lot of the functions. The reason is because imagine having 30 containers and you have to update like one thing and update them on them all. And yeah, you can do a regex, but there's gonna be times where it's not a great idea to do that. Okay, so PG and me start. So these are the key tasks. See how there's roll, see how there's remove. So we're gonna put this in. Net data. Again, this is the last thing. Okay. Remove. So it's gonna go by name. So we're gonna say food. Remove container. Okay, ignore errors. True. Okay. Let's go ahead and push this bad boy. Updates. Okay, so we have that, so we need to fork it again. PG fork. Download my own custom version again. And the great thing about this is that once I'm done with all this, I can blow this away. This again does not affect my main PlexGuide. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute net data. We already know that it's running, but because it's going to remove the container, this should all work. And there you go. So we should see remove listing food. Yeah, net data debug listing food. Yeah, so it looks like everything worked. And let's look here, and there's corn. So again, please feel free to look at some of the script, and you can see things that are just kind of connected throughout. The first thing is take something like net data, replicate it, and take another container and then try to do some stuff out of it. And again, after a while, you'll start going crazy with Ansible. Even though I have menus, I have a lot of scripts in here too. So Ansible cuts out on half the grief. So I hope this video just kind of gave you some like quick information. Again, this is not necessarily to teach you. Down the road, we'll do some like more instructional videos. Like let's say we're going to create one from scratch, but that's an understanding that you kind of already understand how to, work Ansible a little bit. Make sure that again, you pay attention to the structure, how it's executed, and then make sure all your stuff lines up. If you kind of follow those things, you'll generally be okay. And if not, Ansible will yell at you in red and tell you where it's at. If you have time to subscribe, like, add comments to this video, please feel free to do so. Again, I apologize for being long-winded. Like I said, it's no script. I'd just rather give you the real deal and show you that I even make mistakes here too. And again, this is a community-focused project with 70% being the focus on you learning and 30% on you obtaining your legal content. You have an outstanding day.